All right, we are at the top of the hour, which means we are going to go ahead and get started. Um, so welcome everyone to our webinar today, where we talk about the science behind the American Chemical Society's content sharing technology. So we're going to take a deep dive with my friends Veronica and Pamela here to learn more about their journey developing and delivering critical lab safety courseware to their customers and how Content Controller and LTI are helping them do just that. So we'll have time at the end for questions, just a bit of a housekeeping note. So if you have questions along the way, please put those into the chat feature and we'll be addressing those at the end. As a quick introduction, I'm Tammy Rutherford. I am the Managing Director here at Rustici Software. For those of you who may not know who we have been around for 21 years and we specialize in the technical learning standards. These are those acronyms: SCORM, LTI, XAPI, CMI5, and AICC. And we build software that helps our customers implement these standards to simply make content and platforms work better together. Many of our customers are LMS providers or learning application providers that use our software to import, launch, and track learning content. And we also work with many content publishers and associations to help them bring their training content and courseware to their customers by packaging and distributing that content. And we also work with government agencies and organizations around the world who leverage our software to build out their learning technical ecosystems. So we work with a broad spectrum of customers, and I'm really excited to have our dear customer, American Chemical Society's Publications Division, and Veronica Hart and Pamela Peacock here to talk with us more about how we're working together. So can you ladies introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about your roles at ACS?
Yeah, I'll start. So I'm Veronica. Um, so the American Chemical Society has been around since 1876. So we're a pretty long-standing organization, actually one of the largest scientific membership organizations in the world. And I, in particular, have been part of ACS Publications, which Tammy said is the publication division for about 12 years. 8 of those years, I served as a technical editor in our production group, which manages all of the journal and book production. And since then, I've been in revenue operations as a senior product manager. In this role, I am the resident expert on all of our products and services and how these are set up and flow through our various sales, analytics, and delivery systems. And the newest product that we have, which we're talking about today, is part of the ACS Institute, and in particular, lab safety.
And I am Pam Peacock, and I am actually almost about a year here at ACS. But I come from a background working about 15 years in the educational technology world. So working for some of the bigger publishers that produce a lot of that content. And I really have specialized in those learning management systems and the virtual classroom and all those collaboration tools that we utilize to distribute and deliver that content. So that's my background.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us. Obviously, we have the experts from the publications division at ACS here to tell us more about the strategy and the technology behind that lab safety curriculum. And it sounds like, Pam, I'm going to ask you this question to walk us through a little bit more about that lab safety curriculum, sort of give us an overview of what it looks like, and from both a content standpoint and then maybe more in depth around the customers that you serve.
Happy to. We have created 4 courses that we have developed using a learning spiral approach, where learners are going to encounter the lab safety concepts with increasing complexity, and each of those courses build upon each other. Our current customers are primarily in that higher education space, so at the colleges and universities, as well as a few corporations as well. We've had a lot of interest coming in also from the higher ed space, and from the high school space. And so we've started actually road mapping out that as well, being able to create our courses on a little bit more diverse and broad education abilities.
Excellent. So the courseware here, this is the courses that you're developing now. These are digital, right? So I think there's a little bit of history or evolution on how you've started creating the digital the digital courseware as compared to, say, what it might have looked like a few years ago.
Yes, we have actually been able to start. We wanted to reach out to our professors out in the space and identify really what their needs were in trying to develop this curriculum for them for lab safety. And so we reached out uh, to professors within institutions and identifying what their pain points were and how we could help them solve their problems. And so when we reached out, we knew that we needed to stay flexible with the learning environments and the ever-changing curriculum, but also being able to deliver our labs in a manner that would be able to be easily delivered via the LMSs. We were able to our content. We have content managers who have the ability to reach out to subject matter experts within the environment. So all your chemistry professors teaching all the way from undergrad all the way through your PhD courses, and we were able to reach out to them and learn what their needs were. And they're like, well, we're using some of the older courses that maybe we've been building ourselves internally, and we'd really like to be able to stay up to date and not using some of maybe those old YouTube videos from the lab safety back in the 90s. And it's like, great, we're here to help with that. And so we've been able to create that interactive course that the students are actually becoming engaged in, and it's more fun to teach from the professor side as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, I can only imagine that um, pulling together sort of some of those uh, older, more traditional formats, keeping up with those is very difficult if we're talking about things that are on paper and you don't even know what the standards are anymore if as things are changing. So moving to a digital platform or digital approach sounds like it's really helped you not only keep up with the times, but also match pace with how learners want to learn today, or just the formats that they're gravitating towards today.
Yep, that's exactly it.
Excellent. And so you mentioned your customers. It sounds like today higher education institutions are sort of the primary users today, but you're expanding that reach also into corporate environments and even K through 12.
We are. We're having we're road mapping out actually what that's going to look like. What does that look like from the actual content that's being produced in those lab courses, all the way through being able to even translate it out and being able to deliver it in multiple formats and multiple languages.
Awesome. So that's a segueing nicely into what we're going to be talking about next, which is how we work together. So how you're able to leverage Content Controller to help reach all of those audiences to deliver that content. Um, as you mentioned earlier, the flexible learning environment. So you're going to be encountering multiple learning environments as an audiences. So before we hear more specifically about how it's the role that Content Controller is playing with the lab safety curriculum, I thought it would be helpful for the audience just to give you an overview of what Content Controller is if you're not familiar with it. It is a product that we've created here at Rustici Software, and we sat down and built this product out back in 2015, 2016 to solve the problem for distributing content across multiple systems. So simply put, Content Controller allows you to centrally manage and distribute your courses so that it's easier to manage versioning and access controls, for example, across multiple systems. You're within Content Controller, it supports multiple content types as inputs. So you're able to bring into the application SCORM content, XAPI, AICC, even PDFs and videos. Where the magic occurs is that you're able to share access to that content as a variety of standards. So let's say you have a SCORM course, for example, but your customers are actually using LTI-driven systems. You're able to share access to that SCORM file as an LTI 1.1 or 1.3 link. So it really helps from a compatibility standpoint for the first step of that distribution, which is getting your courses to your customers. But from there, it also helps you manage that content once it's out in the world. So it allows you to more centrally manage versioning. So if you need to update your courses, it allows you to have visibility into what's happening with those courses and a few other features. But it's just a high level overview, but I'll hand it back over to Pam to walk us through more specifically how you're using it with the lab safety curriculum.
Certainly. One of the big things, I think you were just speaking on it too, is we were really looking for that easy way to distribute our content and still maintaining our control of the course itself. And we looked at really those four primary areas. We really needed to keep the control of the content, be able to licensing it out, but we also needed to be able to share the content to any of those LMSs. And I think we are upwards of 10 different LMSs right now that we deliver content to. And so we also needed that ability to update the courses pretty easily. And one of the bigger final pieces was to be able to then report back out. So we needed the ability to track the learner usage and analyze our course content. And Content Controller has definitely been working very well with that information.
Excellent. It's interesting. So you mentioned today that you're working with 10 different organizations and obviously adding. It's probably helpful to think about in some cases where some of the content controller functionality really helps is at scale. So as you think about as your courses start to go out into the world and work with different customers without a way to sort of centrally manage that content, you may be doing the same work 10 times over, and even your LMS administrators on the other end could also be experiencing having to do additional work and steps as you think about things like versioning, for example, or when you're updating your courses. So at scale, as you mentioned, as you're growing the program and starting to reach out, even internationally, things can get out of hand pretty quickly without some way to sort of centrally manage everything. So I'm excited to hear some of the things that you're gravitating towards, in particular, that licensing and those course updates. So I think one of the things that we've talked about before is that keeping the courses updated from a subject standpoint and even formatting or what that looks like for your learners. Can you tell me a little bit more about maybe how you're leveraging that from both content standpoint and maybe even accessibility?
Absolutely. We have the ability to one of those big key features that we were looking for was the ability to update our content pretty quickly. And I actually have a really fun story that's more recent that has happened with one of our customers. We had the ability to start with the general chemistry course very quickly, and when we created that course, we have a third-party vendor take a look at it, and uh, they go ahead and do it's called a VPAT, and they go ahead and when we created that course, we have that third-party third-party vendor come through and actually do that VPAT assessment criteria. And when we were looking at it, uh, our one of our first customers, sorry, I'm getting a little my story is it's all in my head. But we
That's
had
great.
when we first versioned that general chemistry course, we were able to sell it out to those customers, and they actually came back and said, "We've taken a look at your VPAT. We had some additional accessibility issues that we'd really like to, have a conversation with you at and see if you guys can address them." We were actually able to take that information back pretty quickly to our content development team then, and they were able to then go back and utilizing the software that we were using, 360 Learn, I'm sorry, Storyline 360. And we were able to update that pretty quickly within the platform and get everybody checking it and then distribute it back out to our customers within a matter of like 4 weeks. So we were to make those changes pretty quickly. We were able to adjust to the customer's need and requirements for accessibility, and then come back and actually say, okay, here it is, it's out there. But we were then able to distribute it to all of our customers, not just one customer. We would have been able to distribute it to all of our customers pretty seamlessly. And that was a considerable benefit for us. And then also for those LMS admins who I'm sure have lots of already on their plate. We were just able to say, we're already done.
Yeah, that's awesome to be able to respond to a customer's need like that. And then it sounds like the lifting was all on your side of things as far as getting the courses updated for those accessibility requirements. But after that, you just updated it in Content Controller, so there was no additional steps required by your LMS administrators or even your instructors or professors.
For the most part, yeah, no, because of the format files that they're requesting, a lot of times it's an automatic update, and we're able to say you can now see those updates within your course. And
That's amazing.
that's been a pretty big key that I think some of those LMS admins, they've already got a lot on their plates with some of the bigger institutions and the changes that are constantly being made within their own organization.
Got it. And I might be backtracking a step, so bear with me, but you mentioned the LMS administrators. Could you just walk us through sort of what it looks like to set as you're getting an organization or an institution on board? And Sarah, we might need to go back a slide. I think there was one that one more. There we go. Perfect. So sort of the workflow for you for the lab safety curriculum that you're bringing over to those institutions.
Yes, absolutely. This is actually where I spend a considerable amount of my time, and Veronica as well, where we spend a lot of times pulling up with those LMS admins. We've sold a course to a particular institution, and now we just need to work with those admins on being able to get it uploaded in their system. But what we've learned pretty quickly is, what is their knowledge base? We have some LMS admins who know the ins and outs of their systems really well, and they're able to take the course, get it uploaded, and back out to their professors in their courses in a matter of just moments. And then we've learned that there are a number of institutions who not only just bought their LMS, they have a brand new person in the role to being an LMS admin. And so we have the ability to help them out with a little bit more hand holding. So we've created walkthrough PDFs. We even pull up with them a lot of times on a webinar really quickly, just to walk them through the installation. And it's just part of it is just our customer service, wanting to be able to provide that best experience for them and that side of it. One of the other things that we've really gotten better, I think, at asking over the last year or so with these courses is we really ask those LMS admins, what's your internal process at your school? Do you have forms that need to be filled out? Do we need to ask for additional time? What is their typical time frame that they need in order to either get in their own queue or for us to not be that barrier for them? And so we've been able to identify which schools typically need a little bit more handholding, but then what schools have forms that we need to be filling out and just being prepared to fill those out for them.
Excellent. Well, it sounds like you've definitely encountered a wide variety of needs out there, and the learning curve, if you will, of incorporating courseware into LMSs. I love that one of the things that you just mentioned is the amount of tools and documentation and support you give your customers to help them, not only if it's the security requirements and forms, but just administering their content. It sounds like you all are the experts now. You've seen some different flavors and combinations out there of some of these LMSs, and maybe you're even giving them tools for them to improve how they're doing this with other courses they're bringing in. So I love that you all are sort of the experts, and are able to support your customers on the wide range of knowledge that they might have.
That's definitely been one of the key things. It's, I think, something we all look to strive to every day. It's making sure that those customers are receiving the information that they need, but in an easy, digestible manner. We've even had customers that have needed to come back and say, okay, so we just did all of this work, but we just got told we're going to change our LMS. And it was like, not a problem. We can handle that. We are now working with 10 different LMSs on a pretty regular basis, and different file types that are required by those institutions. And it's been really nice to have our own background, but also then have Rustici, the support from your team as well.
Excellent. Yeah. So I think one of the things we see out there is the different combinations or standards and behaviors of LMSs. And we mentioned earlier, you mentioned that you're using Articulate to create the courses, which means they're probably in a SCORM format of some sort. And so being able to leverage a variety of outputs from Content Controller. And I think even on this slide, we've got some documentation from your site on sort of the various combinations that we might see out there. And obviously, with many of your organizations being educational institutions, I imagine LTI 1.1 or 1.3 is what you're interacting with the most for most of these LMSs today.
It definitely is. It's more than 50% of them are definitely using the LTI 1.3. And that's just, I'm hoping it's made it easier on their side, but it's definitely made it a little bit easier on our side for that updating purposes and maintaining those standards and the regular ability to make any adjustments.
Gotcha. And as far as like getting things set up, I know, there's some built-in testing tools in Content Controller that allow you to preview what the course is going to look like, troubleshoot anything before it goes out in the wild or before you deliver it to your customers. But I think you guys have also been able to use some sort of sandboxing functionality or even giving access to your institutions for seeing the content ahead of time, whether it be security requirements, or you're able to sort of allow them a preview kind of function almost before you sell them
do.
a license?
We've had that really big opportunities to, here's what it's going to look like in your environment. This is what it takes to upload it into the environment. But then the instructors have the ability to then maybe even run a trial course with it. And this has allowed us that ease of uploading, but then being able to have those instructors run a course very quickly. We've had a few of them that typically want to run it during their really short sessions over the summer. And so we have the opportunity to just provide them a trial access, and they can run through that course and actually see the progress of their students and see where they might want to give us feedback, because that's what something we're always also accepting is, can you tell us, where you would see improvements made within the course?
That's really cool. And that's sort of a risk-free chance for both of you, right? To kind of see will this work for our curriculum? Where does it fit?
Hmm.
How easy is it to use? And for you all, it's sort of almost like it's that free trial offer, sort of, if you'd like to try it, then you can buy it. So it sounds like it's a great setup for a longer term relationship with these institutions.
Yes.
Awesome. So I know we talked a little bit about the versioning and how you're using content controller to easily support sort of content as it's being updated, as you get more feedback from your customers, or as the subject matter changes, and you're able to evolve and keep that courseware updated. I wanted to talk more about now sort of the reporting and visibility functions. I know you mentioned there's a couple of components here that we always look at. One is the licensing that you mentioned, and the ability to sort of see how your institutional customers are using the courses. And there's sort of two pieces here. One is, it's a subscription management tool, if you will, or it's allowing you to gain visibility into how many people are taking the courses. And then there's a piece that we'll talk about in just a moment that's more about the reporting and analytics of the actual content and learner data. But you did mention that there's, this has been able to support some of your licensing structures. So as you're, working with these institutions, you have some more visibility and tools built in to sort of manage that access and renew licenses or increase subscriptions if you need to.
This is actually one of my favorite subjects. This is where I geek out a lot with the
Cool.
data. I love the data-driven changes that we can do based on the information that we're getting, the feedback that we're getting back through the reporting features. We have both a qualitative and a quantitative reports that we try and run on this that we can send back to our leadership team, but something we can also send back to those institutions as well. I know our institutions definitely like that reporting of where's the student at in their progress through the course, have they completed it? But then the key thing I think for them is that it's reporting back a grading scale for them. So we have our courses have a grading mechanism. So we have the ability to then send that information back to them and they're reporting into their own grade books. And we love that feature of it. On our side, we have the ability to, big thing that we need to be able to do is make sure that, we know who has our course, how many learners are using it, and then start to get some of that feedback there. That's actually where the reporting is actually coming in really handy. We have the ability for us to, we need to look at the numbers of seats that are being used. We need to also know the progress of the learners that are going through the course. But the time it's actually taking to get through the course, and our courses are broken down into sections or modules, and we can identify how long it's taking them to actually get through each of those as well. And then at the end, we have an assessment piece, and so we can then do some analytics on that assessment, where they're having their most problems, where the barriers to the learning. And so a lot of that back and forth data is letting us know where we can improve our courses.
Yeah, that ability to see things, the big picture, if you will. So this is, that aggregate view of courses across all of those institutions. So you have just this bigger data set, if you will, of 10 institutions. So you have a larger learner population that can kind of give you that picture of where people might be getting stuck, questions that are, if you see that consistently a question in an assessment that maybe everyone is getting wrong, that allows you to sort of go back and figure out, is it me or is it them? And
Yep.
give your content experts, your subject matter experts, more more feedback and insight into how their courses are being used out there across all of these institutions. And then this still publishes out to the gradebook, right? So your the institution's LMS is still getting updated as well.
We do, and that has been something that they're like, that is probably the number one question I get from some of our customers, like, will it report to me that they passed or failed? It's like, well, ours actually will give you a score. And so we've built the course so that it can provide a score back to that learner, and it ingests it into their gradebook typically. And
Awesome. So
that's,
it's actually talking to both systems at the same time?
it's awesome that way. And luckily for them, they keep the student data on their side, so they know their students and it reports back to them on their students. But from our side, for security purposes, we don't actually see that information. We don't know any information about the student, their personal information or anything as such. We know that a seat has been used, that somebody is taking that course, they are progressing through it, and where they might be taking additional time. But we completely anonymize all of that data that's coming in from the institution.
Yeah, I know learner data is and student privacy is certainly a hot topic. And so we do have customers that leverage that hashing functionality or that ability to obscure any unique learner or student data, but it still allows you to see a unique ID. You just have no idea what that represents. You can't correlate it back to a particular person. So you still get that learner
Absolutely.
level detail without that student data visibility that you don't necessarily want in your world.
Exactly. I've always enjoyed looking at that data because it's just a giant string of numbers.
Yes. Yes, you'll never, this is where the copy paste feature comes in handy, for sure. So yeah, I do, we do see customers that, love that broad spectrum visibility from a content analytics standpoint to say, hey, how is my course behaving overall? And then that sort of drill down feature to being able to look at a specific learner's data on the time spent on the course or the actual scores for each particular question. So you can really drill down if you need to. You're just drilling down at a learner level to get that granularity whenever you need to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. So we've been talking for a bit now, and I think with, as you've been working with Content Controller, first of all, thank you for sharing some of the more insights into the lab safety program with us. Do you have any sort of tips or best practices or words of wisdom that you can share with us?
I do actually. It's the experience for us. The big thing that we want to do is improve on our user experience. We needed that ability to be able to seamlessly update the users and include any updates to the actual experience, the design of the course, but then to be able to deliver that out seamlessly without interruption to the learner, interruption to the school, and it on top of that to any of the LMS admins who have to make any updates to their already probably busy, very, very busy workloads. Security is paramount. I would say there hasn't been a school that hasn't asked us to fill out a form or just in a general question asked, like, how do you keep our learner data secure? It's like, great, we do it by anonymization, and we have the ability to not, we have even the ability within the content controller to actually wipe that data at a later date if that is something the institution requires. So we have the ability to make sure that we're delivering on the content platforms, but we're prioritizing that security and that protection, those protections.
Awesome. Yeah, I think you're really, oh, sorry. And you've got one more there.
I did. I had one more. It was the flexibility and scalability. We are evaluating our courses on an annual basis. What updates can we make? What have we learned from our customers? What changes can we make? But then we want to be able to make the changes, make the improvements, and then get it back out to our customers without any interruption to their courses and to their accounts.
I love that everything you're talking about here is so customer first. You're really thinking about that learner experience and even your LMS administrator experience as far as, the work that needs to be done to get these courses into their LMSs to support those instructors and professors. So you have so many different users when you say user experience, and I love that you're thinking about all of them along the way. And as you tying into that flexibility and scalability, and you're doing it in a way that allows you to continue to add institutions to your universe, but you're doing it in a way that's very scalable. And I'm glad that we're able to help support that with you, and Content Controller is able to help you do that. The security side of things, absolutely, it's on everybody's minds. We hear about that constantly. And Content Controller is ISO certified, so we have been doing the security, security elements on our side of things too, just to make sure that that application and the data that it supports is absolutely secure, and the teams that work on this product are doing everything by the book for that ISO certification as well. I think
We appreciate that.
Yeah, it's definitely worth the effort in the long run for sure. Tara, can you move back one slide? Because I think I really love this quote that your friends at Boston College have talked about this program, but they highlight all of the things we've been talking about today. The modern approach to bringing this lab safety curriculum into your customers' institutions. And just looking at that sort of evolution from the old days and how things were done to bringing it into a more dynamic online format with the case studies and the assessments, and really just, from what you've talked about, it sounds like evolving that content to meet your students and learners' expectations today. It's tough keeping up with all of the distractions out there in the video games and the way that they're interacting with content online constantly. So I think that modern approach is really beneficial to your customers.
We definitely appreciate the pulling the 25-year-old safety video back into the current century.
Yes. Yes. And then the time, the gaining of precious time. This is the other piece here where I think you've mentioned before the ebb and flow of early semester, there's probably, or even like pre-semester start, trying to get some of these basic fundamentals out to students before their courses begin, so that they're immediately operating with safe practices in these lab environments. So just, we've talked about time savings here in a lot of different ways, whether it's your LMS administrators that you serve, or even the professors and the students that are able to sort of faster get to the critical coursework that they're doing with those safety practices already understood.
Definitely. And we like the idea that hopefully we're giving those students that confidence to go into the lab and be safe and feel safer by taking our course, and then being able to actually just demonstrate the learning that they had throughout the course and perform it while in the lab.
Awesome. Well, I think we are kind of coming to the end. I missed the lovely pun that's on the next slide, so I can't let that go unnoticed. Yes. It was perfect chemistry when we started working together about 3 years ago, which, as we all remember, was when things started shifting rapidly to digital and online learning. So I'm very glad that we've had 3 years to sort of build this relationship. And yes, it's been a lot of fun. I think there's probably a few more chemistry-centric puns out there that I could come up with, but they're not coming to mind. I do want to make sure we have time for questions if there are any that are out there. And we also have follow-ups here. If you have questions from what we talked about today, please let us know. And I think this QR code, is access to your courses, or there's the ability to sort of see what some of these courses are.
We do. We definitely want, if anybody's interested in taking a look at our 4 courses, we have the ability to give 30-day access to our courses, and that QR code will actually take you to a form that you can fill out, and we will get you that access pretty quickly, in my opinion.
That's awesome. And is that using what we talked about earlier, sort of that sandbox or preview feature?
It becomes what the customer really would like. If they would like to take a look at our hosting, if they'd like a free trial to get it implemented in their LMS, it's really what the customer needs and wants are.
Cool. And again, that just goes back to that flexibility and being able to meet the customers where they are. So let's see. I do have a couple of questions that have come in. And this might be, Veronica, this might be one for you. When you have customers coming on board, Pamela, you just mentioned, that it's really what they want, they're, what they need. Do you have to do any work to get buy-in for you leveraging the content controller delivery mechanism for this courseware? Or are there conversations that happen or people within the institutions that you need to speak with? Maybe it's IT or somebody beyond your normal audience?
Uh, sometimes we have to, on the customer side, get involved with IT, but for the most part, no. Like we manage it on our level entirely with content controller, and then like Pam has said, she's our expert on all of the systems now. And we really do appreciate our customers too, as they've given us a chance to really understand the different systems as well.
Mhm.
So there's a few customers that, like she said, we've met with several times just to kind of get an understanding and a deeper dive into the whole process. So now we do feel more like experts in it than we definitely did less than a year ago. So it's been a pretty big whirlwind of technology learning.
Yeah, that's come up fast, especially given the combinations that you'll see. And I think some of that is repeatable, which is great about the standards. You'll start to see some familiar patterns on
Mhm.
behaviors within LMSs and how they um, speak LTI 1.3, for example, and sort of building up that library or knowledge base of, oh, these are the configurations or things to know if we're sharing as 1.3 with a Canvas installation, for example.
Yeah, they're very sectioned off between the different systems. You just have to know what field name equals what field name and various
Mhm.
systems. And once you get that down, it's pretty easy.
Excellent. I'm trying to see if we have some more questions coming in from the audience. So on the so one question's come up around sort of content updates. And Pam, I know we talked earlier about the ability to easily push those updates out to learners with no additional steps. Uh, is that something that, as you work with these LMS administrators, different than how they might be maintaining or having to manage other types of content? So is this a pleasant surprise for them?
I think a lot of times it has been. We've had a couple of customers, we have renewal processes that we work with here on a yearly basis. And it was something as simple as, it was very nice that the LMS admin reached out to us when the professor's like, yeah, we're going to, we'd like this course for the next school semesters as well. And the answer is, okay, no problem. Let me double check. You have all the most updated versions of the course that we have created. Is you're all set to go. There's no additional work on your end. There's typically the courses that we have to have additional updates to is if we've had to deliver the files, the course files specifically as typically the SCORM package files. And so those files are the ones that we do need to make a little bit more manual adjustment update, and that's when we just provide a very simple walkthrough, and it's as simple as replacing the old URLs with the newer URLs.
Gotcha. Very cool. Well, and I love that, you've set a great foundation. You've worked quickly on this too. As you just mentioned, Veronica, in the past year, it's been, going to market and bringing these courses out there. That's a lot to accomplish in a year. And I'm excited though, because you've built a great foundation. I think it sounds like you've got, the core curriculum for this lab safety courseware today, but it allows you to sort of build on that in the future and add additional courseware as you continue to hear the needs in the market.
Yeah, Pam, I'm going to let you take this one because I know you know the roadmap of the course creation better than I do. I just know, yes, they're coming, and at least we do have this foundation of knowledge that no matter how many courses we add, it's going to be treated the same way because of content controller and the different relationships now that we've built, and then also understanding of the other systems.
Yep. We started out obviously with the general chemistry course, and then the last fall we actually came out also with the organic chemistry. And so we were able to pull up with our customers, would you also like this? It's something as easy as adding it to their course. That's actually been something that's very nice with this particular software, is that we can add that course into their account, and now they can see it in their account. So that's just been an extreme benefit. And they're like, I don't have to do any more uploading or installments. Like, nope, we have already linked your account with our content controller, and here is your next updated course. And as we continue to build out, we are looking at building more in-depth courses into the chemistry, but also then looking at those life sciences, the chemistries, and then kind of coming back into that high school realm as well. We also know that there's a difference. Different labs around the world also have different ways that they're teaching that course software. So we're even looking at how do you teach this internationally? How do you make this course so that it can be used anywhere, or does it need to be more specific? So yeah, our roadmap kind of like just keeps branching out farther and farther.
Well, and I love that you mentioned the internationalization or the support of multiple, languages. That's one thing that Content Controller does quite well. There is a multi-language feature that allows you to sort of streamline courseware that might be offered in multiple languages. So today that might look like, if you have a course that's in 10 languages, for example, that could look like 10 different courses that you're managing in an LMS all the way through, which, as we're all thinking about that exponentially, that can get pretty messy pretty fast. And Content Controller has a concept of equivalence, or the ability to manage at the title level all of these courses. So if you have a course in 10 languages, for example, you're managing one course versus 10, and that allows you to administer that within your LMSs from one thing you link to versus 10 different things, or one assignment versus 10 different ones, and gives that language option down to the learner level. So you actually allow the learner to select the language that they prefer based on a drop-down menu, and even defaults to whatever their browser settings are. So it really helps that learner experience. But even more so, the LMS administrator is probably grateful for not having to do the same thing 10 different times, for example.
Yes, Pam is also thankful for that.
Yes, I am very thankful for that. I don't have to upload the course that many times.
Speaking about content, we do have a question here from the audience about, do you use Content Controller as your main content storage system? And as we talked about, for storing and updating content, or do you have another system where your courses are that Content Controller talks to?
That's a great question. In fact, we more recently have decided that, yes, we are making sure that the versions that we hold in the Content Controller, those are our gold versions. Those are if we have to distribute out to a different LMS for a different reason, that's where we pull the files from, so that we have the ability to maintain an always updated version that can be easily pulled from and distributed out. And so, yes, we more recently have come to that decision that this is where we're going to house our gold versions.
That's great. So it's sort of like that content system of record. So you know that that's actually the master copy, if you will, and sort of reduces that risk of having multiple versions potentially leak out somewhere.
Especially because it does. The Content Controller allows us to see when we uploaded it. Have we uploaded a new version? We can write notes in there just in case, I'm going to say maybe I'm not doing this in 10 years, and hopefully we have about 1,000 more courses, but somebody will be able to actually see that information. This course was updated on this date by this person, and then distribute it out.
Yes, those logging features are critical. I know everybody wants to sort of have that audit trail, if you will, just in case, so you have some background in history. And can see who's doing what in the application. But I love that you've established, yes, this is our gold standard. This is how we're using Content Controller as the content storage system for our master copies or gold copies out there.
Yep.
Awesome, thanks. Well, are there any other, I think we've seen all the questions come through already. And we've got that QR code, so you can try this out yourself. Pam or Veronica, is there anything we didn't cover today that we should before we wrap things up?
I
don't think so.
Yeah, I think we hit all the pieces that we wanted to share with everybody.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing the story with us today. And I know our support team has really enjoyed working with your teams as well. So it's been a really fun collaboration from the beginning to where we are today. So thank you for putting up with us today and letting us share your story. about the lab safety curriculum. And if you have any questions for the audience, for those of you out there, we are happy to reach out. So I think there's even a note here in the chat about if you would like to talk to somebody after this, just let us know. You'll be getting a survey or an email after this session. It is recorded and we will be able to share access to the archive with everybody. But again, thank you, very big thank yous to Veronica and Pam today for joining us. Pam gave up a little bit of her spring break this week to join us, so I really appreciate that.
We thank you, Tammy.
All right, thanks everyone.